Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at a pretty specific moment today, right out of 2 Chronicles, chapter 31.
That's right. And it's not just about reading an old story. We want to unpack what King Hezekiah actually did after this big spiritual revival.
Yeah, what were the principles behind it? And crucially, how does this ancient wisdom, speak to us today? How can it maybe encourage our own obedience and strengthen our faith?
Exactly. So picture this. There's just been this huge spiritual awakening. But it wasn't just a feeling. The text says the people immediately went out.
They took action.
They really did. Throughout Judah, Benjamin, even Ephraim and Manasseh, which is interesting because that's northern kingdom territory. And what did they do? They started smashing idols.
Breaking images, cutting down those Asherah poles, the sacred groves, tearing down the high places, the altars, just dismantling all the stuff that pulled them away from
A
God.
very physical, very active response. But
Right.
Hezekiah, he knew that kind of energy needed, well, structure to last. So his next move was organization.
The practical side.
Right. He reorganized the priests and the Levites into their proper divisions, their courses for serving at the temple. He gave them specific jobs.
Like you handle the burnt offerings, you do the peace offerings, others for ministering, for leading thanksgiving, for praise, getting everyone in their lane.
Precisely. Structure supporting the spiritual life, not stifling it. And Hezekiah led by example. He didn't just tell people what to do.
He committed his own resources.
Hmm.
The text mentions he set aside a portion of his own stuff for those regular offerings, Sabbaths, new moons, the set feasts, following the law himself.
That's such a key leadership point. Then he commanded the people in Jerusalem, specifically, to bring in their portions for the priests and Levites.
And the reason was clear, right? So these guys could focus on their actual job, serving God, studying and teaching the law without worrying about, making a living.
Exactly, to encourage them in the law of the Lord. And the people's reaction?
It was huge. It says, as soon as the commandment came abroad, boom, people started bringing stuff in. First fruits, the first bit of the harvest.
Yeah.
Corn, wine, oil, honey.
All the produce. And not just first fruits, but tithes too, a tenth of everything. Livestock, other things they'd specifically set aside, consecrated for God. So much that they had to pile it up in heaps.
Just massive heaps of goods. And it wasn't a one-day thing, was it?
No, the text says the heaps started in the 3rd month, and they were still finishing up in the 7th month. That's sustained generosity over, 4 months?
Wow. So Hezekiah and his officials come and see these mountains of food and supplies.
Imagine seeing that, their first reaction. They bless the Lord and the people. Then Hezekiah asks the chief priest, Azariah, what's going on here?
And Azariah's answer is pretty amazing. He basically says, ever since people started bringing these offerings, we've had more than enough to eat. And look at all this left over. The Lord has blessed his people.
It points directly to God's blessing flowing from the people's obedience and giving. But Hezekiah didn't just say, great, lots of stuff. He immediately thought about managing it.
Right. Setting up a system. He ordered storerooms, chambers to be prepared.
To properly store all the offerings, the tithes, the dedicated items, faithfully brought in, faithfully managed. And he appointed specific people.
Overseers. Names like Conaniah and his brother Shimei are mentioned as the main guys in charge.
And others under them. And another Levite, Kor, was responsible for distributing the freewill offerings and the most holy things. It shows real accountability.
No doubt. And the distribution itself was thorough.
Very. They made sure portions went to all the priests and Levites according to their divisions. It wasn't just for the active priests, but all registered males, 3 years old and up, got a daily portion. Levites 20 years and older, plus their families, wives, sons, daughters.
Even those living out in the towns.
Yes, even those in the Levitical towns and the suburbs. It was a really comprehensive system to support everyone involved in the service of God.
So, wrapping up the story, the chapter ends by highlighting Hezekiah's character. He did what was good and right and true before the Lord his God.
And that in every single thing he undertook for God's service, following the law and commandments, he went at it with his whole heart.
And the result? He prospered. Simple as that.
Okay, so let's pull back from the story itself. What are the deeper principles here for us?
Well, first off, it seems like genuine spiritual renewal, getting rid of those idols, naturally leads to a healthier, more unified community. It's not just an inward feeling, it has outward effects.
Definitely. And it also shows that strong leadership, especially spiritual leadership, isn't just about, inspiring speeches. It needs practical organization, clear roles, systems, accountability. Hezekiah didn't just inspire revival, he structured the follow-through.
That structure, And his own integrity, using his own resources first, setting up fair systems, clearly build trust.
Absolutely. And Azariah's comment connects the dots. That kind of community generosity, that abundance, it happens when people trust the system. They trust their contributions are handled properly and used for the right things.
Which points to the need for transparency and fairness in how resources are managed, if you want reforms or positive changes to actually stick.
Right. It highlights that lasting change, whether it's national or personal, needs more than just a moment of passion. It needs, well, consistent structures, systems, habits, like Hezekiah building storerooms and distribution lists. That strengthens faith because it shows God works through practical, reliable means too.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is about Hezekiah's own approach. Wholehearted commitment, seeking God with all his heart.
Exactly. It's about integrity, doing what's good, right, and true before God in everything. That alignment, that faithfulness, the text says, leads to prospering, which seems to mean real effectiveness and blessing in God's work. It's a call to obedience that comes from the core.
So, bringing this home for you, listening, how does this ancient story apply now? Well, think about those idols in our lives today. Maybe it's not a statue, but the relentless pursuit of profit. Or maybe celebrity culture, or just short-term thinking.
Identifying those things that pull our hearts away from God and actively deciding to, dismantle them, that makes space for healthier values, for obedience based on what truly matters.
And think about leadership, whether it's in your family, at work, in your church or community group. Leading with integrity, establishing clear values, setting up good, fair systems. It's not just management speak. It's applying faith practically.
It demonstrates that faith works in the real world, which strengthens it. And what about giving and resources?
Hezekiah's story challenges us to think about purposeful giving, supporting things that matter, but also about the importance of responsible handling of those resources.
Yeah, generosity needs trustworthy stewardship. When you see that happen, it encourages your own obedience in giving, and it builds your faith in the work being done.
And the need for structure applies personally too, doesn't it? Sustainable change in our spiritual lives often requires building consistent habits.
For sure. Regular prayer, time in scripture, acts of service. These systems help sustain growth and obedience beyond just, emotional highs. It provides a framework for faith.
Ultimately, it comes back to that core idea of integrity and wholeheartedness that we saw in Hezekiah.
Doing the right things for the right reasons, faithfully, transparently, that aligns you with God's ways. And the promise we see here is that such wholehearted seeking leads to blessing and fruitfulness.
Hezekiah sought God, followed the rules, organized things well, acted with integrity, and he prospered. His dedication brought blessing.
And those principles about values, leadership, giving, systems, integrity, they're just as powerful for us today as we try to live out our faith. They encourage obedience and build trust in God's blessing.
So the question for you to think about is this.
How might pursuing spiritual health with that same kind of wholehearted commitment like Hezekiah showed impact your life and your community today?